The day Sarah met Samuel, she was not even looking for love. It was a bright afternoon on the university campus, and she was hurrying to the library with her accounting textbook clutched tightly to her chest. Her final year project was due, and her mind was full of numbers and stress. Samuel, tall and confident, was coming out of the business faculty with some of his classmates. He was already doing his MBA, a man who spoke with wisdom beyond his years. Their paths crossed when her books fell. He bent quickly to help her pick them up. "Be careful, beautiful," he said with a warm smile that made her heart skip. "Thank you," she replied shyly. That small moment became the beginning of something big. He followed her to the library and sat beside her. They talked for hours, not about books, but about life, dreams, and the kind of home they wanted to build one day. Samuel sounded perfect, respectful, intelligent, and full of ambition. He told her about his plans to rise high in the banking world. Sarah, innocent and full of faith, was drawn to him instantly. Days turned into weeks. Samuel began walking her to class, buying her lunch, calling her every evening to pray with her before bed. She had never met a man so attentive. Her roommates teased her, saying she had finally met the one. Sarah fell deeply in love. In Samuel, she saw her future, a man who would love her, protect her, and build a peaceful home. By the time she graduated, everyone on campus knew about Mr. and Mrs. Bank Manager. They were inseparable. When he proposed to her under the old mango tree near the school gate, she cried tears of joy. It felt like the beginning of a fairy tale. Their wedding day was small but beautiful. The church was filled with laughter, drums, and the sweet smell of jollof rice. Sarah wore a simple white gown, her eyes bright with love and hope. Samuel looked handsome in his suit, smiling proudly as they said their vows. When the pastor told him to love and protect his wife, Samuel nodded eagerly. He held Sarah's hands and whispered, "You are my world. I'll never make you cry." Sarah believed him with all her heart. After the wedding, they rented a small but neat apartment in the city. Sarah made the house a home, clean curtains, bright flowers, and her sweet laughter filling every corner. Samuel would come back from work every evening to find her waiting with his favorite meal and a big smile. At night, they would sit on the balcony, talking about their dreams. Samuel often said, "Soon, I'll become a bank manager. You'll see, my wife. Well, live a good life." And Sarah would reply softly, "I believe in you, my love." She was happy. Life felt complete. They attended church together, visited friends, and even saved little by little for their first car. To everyone who saw them, they were the perfect young couple. Sarah sometimes remembered her campus days and smiled. Everything she dreamed of, love, peace, a caring husband, she had found in Samuel. But life has a strange way of changing things when we least expect it. Just 2 months after their wedding, Sarah began to feel weak and dizzy. At first, she thought it was stress from adjusting to marriage, but when she missed her period, her heart raced. She bought a test kit, and the 2 red lines stared back at her. She was pregnant. She smiled in joy and fear. When she told Samuel that evening, he jumped up in excitement and carried her in his arms. "My wife, you've made me the happiest man on earth," he shouted. Sarah laughed and rested her head on his chest. She didn't know that this pregnancy, this innocent joy, would be the beginning of many things, both sweet and bitter. The news of Sarah's pregnancy spread among friends and family like Harmattan fire. Everyone was happy for the young couple. Her mother danced around the compound, singing, "My daughter has brought me joy." Sarah felt blessed. Every morning, Samuel would place his hand on her growing belly and whisper, "My little prince or princess, your father can't wait to meet you." He was still the loving husband she married, gentle, playful, and caring. He helped her with chores sometimes and made sure she ate well. On weekends, they went shopping together for baby things, small shoes, soft blankets, and tiny shirts that made them both laugh. 9 months passed quickly. The night of labor came suddenly. Sarah woke up with sharp pains that made her cry. Samuel panicked but tried to stay strong. He rushed her to the hospital, holding her hand tightly. Hours later, the cry of a newborn filled the ward. "It's a boy," the nurse shouted. Tears ran down Sarah's cheeks as she saw her baby for the first time, small, pink, and perfect. Samuel hugged her tightly, smiling from ear to ear. "You've given me a son," he said proudly. "I'll never forget this day." They named the baby Chitara, meaning what God has written. At home, life became a little busier but still sweet. Samuel often boasted to his colleagues about his beautiful wife and new baby. He bought new clothes for Sarah and took her out sometimes. After a few months, Sarah decided to register for her NYSC service. She wanted to keep her dreams alive and finish what she started. Samuel agreed happily, saying, "My wife is smart. I like that you're ambitious." He sounded sincere. But slowly, as Sarah balanced motherhood and service, Samuel started to change. He became more focused on his job and less on her. Some days he didn't even notice how tired she was. But Sarah told herself it was normal, that men became busier when families grew. She ignored the small signs, the little changes in tone, the way his eyes no longer shined when they talked. Love blinded her from seeing what was coming. Life moved quickly for Sarah and Samuel. Their son, Chitara, grew fast, always smiling and playful. Sarah loved being a mother, though it was not easy. Between sleepless nights and early mornings, she was often exhausted, but the sight of her baby's face made her forget her tiredness. Samuel, on the other hand, became busier. His bank work took much of his time. He often left early and came home late, sometimes too tired to talk. Sarah didn't complain. She believed that being a good wife meant being patient. Just when she thought her body was beginning to rest from the first childbirth, she missed her period again. The test confirmed it, she was pregnant, a second time. At first, she smiled weakly, holding the test kit in her shaking hands. She was happy but scared. The first pregnancy had drained her. This one came before she could fully recover. When she told Samuel, his reaction was half smile, half frown. "Again?" he said quietly. "Well, it's fine. Children are blessings." Sarah noticed the change in his voice, but she forced a smile. "Yes, blessings," she replied softly. This second pregnancy was not as smooth as the first. She vomited often, felt dizzy, and became weak most days. The doctor told her to rest more, but resting was hard with a toddler around and no house help. Sarah would wake up, cook, clean, and bathe her son, all while fighting back nausea. Many mornings, she cried silently in the kitchen, whispering prayers for strength. Because of her condition, she could barely attend her NYSC place of primary assignment. Her supervisor often called to ask why she was absent, but she could not tell him she could hardly stand some days. When she gave birth after 9 long, painful months, the hospital lights blurred through her tears. The cry of another baby filled her ears. This time, it was a girl. Samuel smiled briefly and named her Kayamika, meaning God is beautiful. But unlike before, he didn't stay long in the hospital. He left quickly, saying he needed to rush back to work. Sarah sat alone, cradling her baby, tears rolling down her face, not from sadness alone but from fear. Somewhere deep inside, she felt her husband slipping away from her. Months passed, and Samuel's career began to shine. He worked hard at the bank, often coming home with stories about big clients and successful deals. One morning, he returned from work wearing a wide smile. "My love, I have good news," he said, pulling off his tie. "I've been promoted." I'm now the new branch manager. Sarah's tired face lit up instantly. Oh, Samuel, that's wonderful, she said, hugging him tightly. I'm proud of you. That night, she cooked his favorite meal, pounded yam and vegetable soup, and celebrated with him. She thanked God for blessing their home. But soon, things began to change. The promotion made Samuel proud, too proud. He began to act like a different person, more commanding, more distant, and less gentle. He stopped helping her around the house and barely spent time with the children. Sarah noticed it but stayed silent. She didn't want to ruin his happiness. One evening, as they sat after dinner, Sarah softly mentioned that she wanted to apply for a small accounting job. She missed working and wanted to support him. Samuel dropped his spoon and looked at her with surprise and irritation. What job? He asked. Just a small one, she replied quietly. Now that the children are growing, I can. He cut her off sharply. Under my roof, you want work. My wife doesn't need to stress outside. Stay home and take care of the children. Sarah's lips trembled. But I studied accounting, Samuel. I can help. I said no. He barked. I'm the man here. I provide for this family. Your duty is to cook, clean, and care for our kids. Tears filled Sarah's eyes, but she swallowed her pain and nodded. Okay, my husband, she said softly. That night, as she lay in bed, she stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. She remembered the man who once told her, "You'll be the most successful woman beside me." Now, he was the same man crushing her dreams. Days turned into weeks. Samuel became stricter. He no longer asked for her opinion before making decisions. He started speaking to her like a child. Sarah, do this. Sarah, don't go there. Sarah, I said I don't want you visiting anyone. She obeyed every word, not because she was weak, but because she wanted peace. But in trying to please him, she slowly began to lose herself. She didn't know it yet, but this silence would one day become her greatest weapon. Sarah's days became long and lonely. From morning till night, her life revolved around the same routine, waking early, preparing breakfast, dressing the children, cleaning the house, cooking again, washing clothes, and waiting for Samuel to return. Sometimes he came home smiling, but most times he returned moody, tired, or angry. If the soup had too much salt, he shouted. If the children made noise, he complained. If she tried to explain, he waved his hand and said, "Just keep quiet, Sarah. You talk too much." But Sarah didn't talk too much, she only wanted attention. She wanted to feel loved again, to be heard. Every night, when Samuel snored beside her, she cried silently into her pillow. Her body was weak, her spirit tired. She missed her old self, the cheerful, ambitious girl who once dreamed of being an accountant, a woman with plans and energy. Now, she was just Mummy Chitara and Kayamika. Nothing more. Her friends from school often called to check on her. Some had started working, traveling abroad, or running their own businesses. Whenever they asked what she was doing, she would smile faintly and say, "I'm taking care of my family." But deep inside, she knew she was not happy. One evening, her friend Ngozi visited her. "Sarah, you don't look fine," Ngozi said, looking around the small living room. "You've lost weight. Are you okay?" Sarah forced a smile. "I'm fine, Ngozi. Just tired, you know. The children." Ngozi sighed. "Tired is not your problem, my friend. You are lonely. You need something for yourself. You can't keep living like this." Sarah looked down at her hands, quiet. She knew Ngozi was right, but what could she do? Samuel would never allow her to work. That night, as she put her children to bed, she whispered, "One day, I will make something of myself again." I just don't know how yet." The walls of the room were silent, but her words hung in the air, a quiet promise to herself. She didn't realize that life was about to test her strength even more. Because soon, Samuel would change again. This time, in a way she never imagined. At first, Sarah thought it was just stress from work. Samuel began coming home later than usual. Sometimes he claimed there were important meetings. Other times, he said he was stuck in traffic or working on client reports. At first, she believed him. She knew banking could be demanding. But soon, she began to notice little things that didn't add up. He stopped eating at home. He started wearing new perfumes she didn't buy. He became more protective of his phone, never leaving it on the table, never allowing her to touch it. One Saturday morning, as Sarah was sweeping the living room, Samuel's phone rang. He was in the bathroom. She looked at the screen and saw the name Madam T flashing. It rang twice, then stopped. A few minutes later, he rushed out of the bathroom, water still dripping from his body, and snatched the phone from the table. "Who called me?" he asked quickly, pretending to act calm. "I didn't check," she said softly, but the name Madam T was already stamped in her mind. That night, when Samuel slept, Sarah couldn't close her eyes. She kept thinking about that name. Who was Madam T? Why did she call him on a Saturday morning? Days turned into weeks, and the pattern continued. He stayed longer at work, smiled more often while pressing his phone, and wore new shirts every week. Then one Sunday after church, a message popped up on his phone while he was bathing. Sarah picked the phone to take it to him but paused when she saw the message preview. "Baby, I miss you already. Last night was sweet. Can't wait to see you again. Kiss mark, Madam T." Her heart stopped. She felt weak and sat on the bed, shaking. It couldn't be true. Samuel? Her Samuel? When he came out of the bathroom, she had already dropped the phone and was pretending to fold clothes. Her heart raced so fast she could barely breathe. He didn't notice. He just dressed up and left the house, saying he had a brief client meeting. Sarah sat down slowly and cried her eyes out. Her tears soaked her wrapper. The man she gave everything to, her youth, her dreams, her peace, was cheating. But that day, something inside her changed. She wiped her tears, looked into the mirror, and whispered to herself. "You will not cry forever, Sarah. You will not act foolish. You will watch. You will learn. And you will make him pay in silence." It was the day the quiet woman began to awaken. From that day, Sarah began to watch her husband closely, not with anger, but with calm and quiet wisdom. She learned something: the best way to catch a lying man is to act like you know nothing. Samuel noticed no change in her behavior. She still cooked, smiled, served his food, and greeted him warmly whenever he came home. But behind those gentle eyes, she was observing everything. She started checking his laundry carefully before washing. Sometimes, she found receipts for expensive restaurants she had never visited. Other times, she found lipstick stains on his shirt collars, bright colors she never used. Her heart broke each time, but she said nothing. Instead, she smiled even wider, cooked his favorite meals, and made him feel comfortable, because now, she had a plan. One evening, Samuel came home excited. He said, "Sarah, my bank just landed a new client. She's a big businesswoman. Her name is Madam T." Sarah's heart skipped a beat, but she acted calm. "Oh, that's good news," she said, pretending to be happy. "Yes," Samuel continued proudly. "She deals in oil and real estate. She's rich, very rich. If I manage her account well, it could take my career to another level." Sarah smiled faintly. "Congratulations, my husband." But inside her, something turned cold. So this was Madame T, the woman who sent him love messages. From that day, she decided to find out more. A week later, Samuel told her he was going to Abuja for official meetings. He packed his bag and left on Thursday morning. That evening, Sarah received a message from her friend Ngozi, who worked in the same city as Madame T. Ngozi wrote, "Sarah, I just saw your husband at a hotel here in town. He wasn't alone. He was with that popular widow, Madame T. They came out of a car laughing and holding hands.